Hey there, Philip Heisterkamp. This is Unfiltered Podcast. I am your host, your co-host, because I also have with me the Isaac Wengler.
That's me.
That's
I'm
you.
Isaac Wengler, co-host.
Co-host.
Here.
Yeah, bringing to you a totally new product, Jefferson, Iowa, the state of Iowa, Unfiltered Podcast, because we're trying to bring value in a totally new way. Isaac preaches from the pulpit. I have a chiropractic office, and then here is just our combined effort to do something new, do something different, and continue to put some positive vibes out on the airwaves. So here we are.
Yeah, our limited wisdom, understanding, worldview, all that tagged up here in about an hour. Product.
Absolutely.
What's not fun and exciting about that?
Right. And I tell people, hey, I'm starting a podcast. We're starting a podcast. And they're like, why?
Why?
And great question, honestly, for those who have asked that question. It's like, well, I mean, one, we want to be a voice of hope.
Yeah.
And we want to dig into people who have wisdom and value
For sure.
to bring to the table. But two, and a partially more selfish reason is I'm excited what it's going to do for me as well. Just like personal development of us digging into deep topics
Definitely.
on a regular basis with guests who have done things that we haven't. And what we're going to learn from them and be able to expose other people to. It's just such a valuable process.
Like that idea of going deeper than you get most of the time.
Yes.
Like that place in the pool you don't go unless you go there on purpose.
Yes.
Makes me think about like when I was younger, we had a pool in Winterset, and there was the really deep part because they had one of those like slides that drops off and then you fall in the water. And like you don't go there. There's ropes, there's places, there's a structure in place to stop you from just entering in on your own. And if you were going to go there, like you don't get there on accident. You had to get there on purpose.
On purpose.
And that's what this is. I think we're getting to the deep.
Amen.
On purpose.
On purpose.
And here's something else I was just thinking about. This isn't like another opinion session. This isn't like that. Well, this is what I think about what's going on here. It's not all opinion. Like we want facts. We want some truth.
Yep.
We don't want the subjective
Correct.
fluff. That's how you've said it before to me.
No
Is
fluff.
like no fluff zone.
Right.
We want the real stuff.
For sure.
We want the meat.
And if we disagree on something, great. Let's hash that out.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I don't know how much that's going to happen,
Right.
but you want to be disagreeable today?
I suppose one of us could probably turn that on or off any given evening and play devil's advocate
Perhaps.
and go there. Right. You would do that.
No, I wouldn't.
No, you never would. Yeah, you would. And
Yeah.
people will.
And you appreciate it.
And I love it every time. Yes.
Great.
Yeah, it is great.
So we're going to have a good time.
Yeah.
Good topics.
Weekly episodes.
Yeah.
And sometimes just you and me, and then sometimes with guests, which
Yeah.
will be great for sure. And someone who deserves a shout out is Lindsay Wathen.
No doubt.
Is over here, not on camera. Eventually you will see her in some format, but she is running the show behind the scenes on the computer. She made the logo intro that you saw. She threw down the beat for us. Integral part of all this, and she should be noticed for her work. So thank you, Lindsay.
Yeah, she's awesome.
She's given us the deuces, but
She's cool.
she's cool.
We like her.
We like her. Yes. But topics today.
Well, I think the best place to start is like, who are you? Here's this guy appearing on your computer screen today.
That's right.
You pulled up on YouTube or wherever you find this, or maybe you're just hearing his voice for the first time, graced by this wonderful voice of the man. And who is this guy? Who is this Dr. Philip Heisterkamp?
That's right. Well, I'm a doctor of chiropractic and born and raised Jefferson, Iowa. Did schooling elsewhere, but I've come back as a young professional to open up a chiropractic practice right here and in town, in my hometown. My parents still live here. My sisters, two older sisters, they live in Des Moines. They all have kids. I've got one kid right now, and more on the way in the future. But for right now, just the one. I've learned a ton through that process. A, just becoming a doctor. B, becoming a business owner. C, getting married, and then the relationships around me. And I'm learning every day.
Yeah.
The moment you're not learning, you're
Losing.
right. It's correct. You can't stand still in the river and not be moved with it. Or, if you're standing still, everything else is moving around you, right? So it's like life never slows down. If you're not learning, then the world is like moving you by. So
Yeah.
I think this right here is an attempt to just stay up with the times.
Press forward.
Yep, for sure. And I love deep conversations, and we've had countless
Yeah.
where it's like,
A lot of them.
we should have recorded that. That would have been good to listen to later, you know?
true.
So I think that's really the brainchild of this is us going deep and then like, we should remember these.
Yeah, it was amazing. That like just started happening right away. And I don't know if that's like a personality thing with us or maybe it's like a call from God to make this thing happen. And he just knew you and me needed to start talking. And here we are
For sure.
this time later. So
Yeah.
deep conversation's good.
We've been in this for, almost a year trying to make this happen.
Right.
And so, 2021, January 2021, here we go. So that's me in a nutshell. But Mr. Isaac,
Yeah.
who are you?
Well, I've got a pretty simple story myself. I'm a pastor, and I was raised by pastors, and I've always wanted to do what I get to do, and I tell people all the time I feel like I've got the best job in the world. I mean, I love getting to work with people and just like pursue the truth and then bring that to people and just like walk through life with people. I like people. So it's a good thing for me to be doing. It's a good thing God's put me in to do. My history, like I grew up in a small town, a lot like Jefferson, Winterset, Iowa, just south of Des Moines. So similar in a lot of ways. The people around here give me grief. They say it's basically like I'm in Missouri. No shots fired at Missouri, but we know we like Iowa. So
Missouri.
Yeah. So anyways, I'm from further south in Iowa. Yeah. And grew up small town, went through school pretty much from a young age, knew this is what I wanted to be doing. Didn't know where or how or what it exactly would look like. Of course, all that would come later. But pretty much have pursued this for the majority of my time on earth. And went to school, Bible college, and then also Christian school to get like a business degree as well while I was down in Tulsa. So I was in Tulsa, Oklahoma for 3 years and exposed to a lot of churches and ministries there. Got some experience, got to do some other fun jobs too, met a lot of cool people, and then came back up to Iowa, spent a few years as a youth pastor at a church in another small town around here, Harlan, Iowa. And then just about a little over a year ago, got the, God made a way, opened a door, and now I'm here in Jefferson, pastoring Abundant Life Ministries and loving every minute of it.
Say, I don't know anyone as young as you. I mean, you're 25. Mm-hmm. I'm 29.
Yeah.
I mean, in our 20s. That's young compared to someone older than us.
Sure.
Or old compared to someone younger than us.
Right.
But I don't know anyone who has as many stories as you do.
Oh,
but
man.
have only been on the earth for 25 years.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I feel like I don't have that many.
Oh, man. I just feel like you're always
I don't know.
got something, one or the other, or some experience. And it's like, man, one time I did this and one time I knew a guy. And it's like, when did you do all this?
I don't know. You just take it in. Actually, I mean, this is kind of a good place to go. I wanted to ask you a question if we got to it today, and it seems like this is the right place for it. I was going to ask you what you think about balancing an extreme life, a life of living like active in like I'm all in this area. I'm totally devoted, totally pursuing, totally engaged in what I'm doing. How do you live that way, but also be balanced? And I'm asking you that from like a health, you're a doctor, you take care of people physically. Mm-hmm. I'm sure living to full engagement in so many things all the time would, I imagine, take a toll on the physical body. And so I kind of wanted to ask you, pick your brain a little bit about balancing out a fully engaged, like what some might call an extreme approach to life of whatever I'm doing it all the way, all the time. So, and I guess the reason I ask you that is because you're asking, how do I come up with all these little stories and things? And I would tell you that I think part of it is living a fully engaged life where like make the most of every day, most of every opportunity. And I don't always do it, but try to make the most of everything and get everything that is available in a day, live out the day. Mm. What's the it's like the Latin thing, conquer or seize the day.
That's right.
Carpe diem, is that what it is? Seize the day.
Yeah. For sure. So what does a non-fully engaged day look like?
A non-fully engaged
Right,
one, I think
right.
it can look a lot of different ways. I mean, I suppose it depends on what your options of engagement are that day. You know, what's available to you to do, and what are you doing or not doing with it.
So I kind of imagine someone just like attached to a phone, just screen surfing all day
That's
long.
good. Yeah,
Right?
sure.
Which, that to me, I mean,
That could be one thing. Laying in bed all day.
Right.
Could be another thing.
right.
I mean, not caring, just like trying to get through or like make it to the weekend, or doing something like mindlessly. What about like engagement that's like disattached from what's actually going on? Like, I'm here, I'm kind of doing it, but like I'm really just trying to get home and eat and go to sleep so that I can get
yeah.
to Saturday and
Just
Sunday.
coasting.
Yeah, coasting, the rut.
Right. So Dan Gable used to say, and I'm sure you can find this on the web somewhere, and this is actually one of the core focuses of this podcast, is about diving into the four chiefly common areas of life that all people must address,
Yeah.
no matter what. Those four being your relationships, which means your relationship with others, and relationship with God or whomever you are agreeing is out there above you as the superior intellect
Creator
of, correct,
yeah.
superior creator. That. So those three relationships with yourself, others, and above, that's area one. Area two being health. Area three being your resources, meaning time, energy, and money.
Yeah.
Time is your only non-renewable resource.
True.
Once it's spent, it's never getting back, right? Money you can get back.
Yeah.
Energy, in a way, you can get back to some degree, right? But then the last area is we use 4 words to describe this idea, but your career, calling, or your pursuit or passion, right? So those 4 areas of life: relationships, resources, health, and your pursuits.
Yeah.
Now, Dan Gable used to talk about people trying to put it as 1, 2, 3, 4 and organizing things, which is most important to you, which is a good habit. Like, everyone should know your governing values,
Yeah.
the things in which you're going to make decisions off of in
Sure.
a day, right? And that was one of the first exercises Dr. Erickson, Chiropractic School, Northwestern Chiropractic College, set us down and said, what are your top 5 governing values? This was an assignment. Like, I had to turn this in. I had to decide, what am I going to make decisions off of throughout my day, right? And so if I want to be a chiropractor, I cannot be making decisions based off of me wanting to get through all the Lord of the Rings movies in one day. Like, that has to become far down the list.
Very
So
low
for
priority.
Correct. So we're talking about setting priorities. And
Yeah.
so everyone has to decide your governing values. But Dan Gable says, instead of organizing things 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on, he talks about everything as 1, 1, 1, 1.
Everything's a priority.
Different things that deserve attention
Sure.
in a different fashion. So by giving one thing all your attention and neglecting another,
Yeah.
you're harming another area of your life. Versus you have to prioritize everything with the exact amount of energy it needs to be at the level that you want it to be. And so, I mean, when I think of a life engaged, that's exactly what I think of is setting your standards for how you want things to go in life.
Yeah.
As much as you can control, because I'm not saying you can control everything,
Right.
right?
You can't.
But that's what we're talking about, is the controllables, making sure that those stay at a standard
Sure.
in each big area of your life, and then working to meet those on a day-to-day, moment-to-moment basis. So it's, when you talk about a fully engaged life, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking 1, 1, 1, 1, not 1, 2, 3, 4, but
Sure.
know?
Like, how do we approach every day and move forward in all of these areas of our life?
Yes.
Health, relationships, finances, and calling, career. Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
Moving forward. Makes me think about like mowing. I've got a big yard. I've got a lot of mowing that I have to do. And, part of that process is like, I've got this tractor that I like to ride around on. And
Is it big and green? Is it a big green tractor?
It's little and it's gray, but I love it. Man, it's like a 1950s, this just old, like antique thing. And I just feel so like agricultural when I get on it. I love it. So if you ever are driving on Highway 4 and you see some guy on the side of the road mowing the ditch with this old gray tractor, it's probably me. Anyways, I'm thinking about mowing with this thing, and there's like so much going on. And to somebody who's not prepared and equipped with the knowledge, maybe we could call it the wisdom of how to run this thing to get the job done, to effectively mow the lawn, it would be like not possible. Because like, number one, you got to know how to drive a manual tractor that's got this like shifting lever down in the middle. You got to be watching and keeping it fueled and like know the signs of running low on that. You got to watch it's got a 3-point attachment, so it like raises and lowers, and then it's got a PTO that spins, and it doesn't have like automatic controls because it's an old tractor. And so like you have to be paying really close attention, or you're going to end up like running this thing into a tree because it doesn't stop right away when you go to stop, because it's got this whole thing. Okay. And so the person who is unequipped to run that is going to be overwhelmed because there's so much going on. And I feel like sometimes people get that way in life. They feel like there's so much going on. Like, I mean, you're boiling them down to 4, but I mean, even 4 seems like a lot for some people.
True.
Like, how am I going to do everything that I've got to do today? I know I felt like that before. Like, how am I going to get all this done today? Show up at the office, it's like the desk is piled up, and like, how am I going to get all my work done today? Let alone make time to develop relationships, like get to the gym, work out, make a good lunch, and like, I don't know, not spend a bunch of money today. How am I going to get it all done? And it seems overwhelming because there's so much to run. And if you don't have the wisdom, the knowledge, the know-how to run it well, then you're going to end up like hitting a tree with your life.
Right.
And so I think what I love about like your heart for this podcast is it's about equipping people with wisdom to be successful at life, like to win at life. I think you wrote down on your little wheel there, to like execute what you want to do, like mow the lawn. Let's get it done.
Right.
Live it out.
For sure.
So there's a nice long analogy for you.
Well, I love the analogy, because as you're walking us through like all the things to keep track of on this tractor, like as long as you've got gas in the tank, that is a fulfilled priority.
Yeah.
And then you can focus on working that shifter the way it should, right? But it's until that gas gauge becomes low, then you need to shift your focus over there, right? So I'm definitely not saying keep your focus on 4 things all equally.
Yeah.
But as things arise, like you cannot let them fail in integrity, right? Your health. You cannot chase your passion or your career to the point where your health is now taking a hit.
Yeah.
And then now I can't work anymore, and then therefore now my relationships are being strained because other people are trying to take care of my health, and I don't have any money coming in, and it affects everything, right? So that's one really good example, and your tractor is like a really attainable way of looking at that. Is when it's time to put gas in the tank, do that. Yeah. When it's time to avoid hitting the tree, do that, right?
It's like doing the right thing in the right moment to keep things moving the right way. Because there's like times of transition even. I'm thinking about mowing the lawn. When I got to turn around, like I got to lift the mower deck up so that I don't scalp the neighbor's hayfield.
Sure.
But like I don't have to do that all the time. There's just moments where things are changing in life, and it's like, hey, this is going to need all my attention in this moment. Like I don't care what the gas is like right now. I mean, I do, but I'm not going to be paying attention to that because I got to get this mower deck up at just the right time and get it turned just right so that I don't ruin something.
Yes. And I think wisdom is knowing when to do these things in advance.
Yeah.
Because if you wait too long to lift the mower deck, I mean, you're scorching it.
You're already
in trouble. Correct. If you wait until all the red lights are going off on them, it's too late, right?
For sure.
So wisdom is staying ahead of the game and keeping these things all floating and thriving, so you don't sink.
Preach it, man.
And they all, I'm thinking of some scene from Mad Max or something where and you've got like a bunch of vehicles going in one direction. And then when one derails and it crashes into the next and then it crashes into the next.
Problems.
That's what this is right here.
Bad.
You've got to keep all 4 things going, or else it's just destruction and fire and
pain
and turmoil and
weeping.
Gnashing of teeth in the outer darkness. And
So we want to avoid all that.
We want to avoid all that, yes.
How many people today do you think are crashing and burning in some area of their life?
With all due respect, most, yes. And I think one large area that's happening in is health. And we were talking this morning.
Yeah, we were.
We happen to be gym partners, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6:30 a.m. If you're looking for one of us, you'll find us at the rec center. Lifting weights, right?
Accountability.
Accountability.
It's wonderful.
Everyone needs it.
True.
You got to have it for sure. To take personal responsibility, you often need accountability from others to do that.
Write that one down.
Yeah.
Quote it.
That just
Board it.
came out of nowhere. So this is good. Anyway, it's what we're here for. We're talking this morning in the book you were reading about how over half of Americans are considered overweight or obese on the BMI scale.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is not a hidden statistic. I mean,
Right.
you can go to the mall and look around, and more than half of the people are probably overweight, right? And so I think when we talk about health being one of these big categories, this is one where America seems to be letting slide.
Yeah.
And we talk about 45% of the people that will die this year will die from direct correlation with cancer or heart disease, which that's not health.
Yeah.
Both are processes that take a long time to arise. It's not like went to bed one night, woke up the next morning, oh, I have cancer now. It's like, no, that's a metabolic dysfunction.
Sure.
That's been festering for years.
Yeah.
So, but
It's like you've been running out of gas for
a long
time.
Yes. And then it's starting to affect other systems in your vehicle. And
Yeah.
right now, I will leave grace for there are some genetic things that happen
Yeah.
that you may or may not be able to get ahead of, right? So I'm not dismissing that.
Well, and I think there's the element of like what you know, like where you come from, and unlearning habits and how difficult that can be on your own too.
Yeah.
Because like I think there has to be like it's not like making an excuse and saying like, oh, it's okay because this is my situation, this is my history, and this is why I am the way I am. Well, we all have a reason we are the way that we are. We all have a reason that the things that are bad about us are the way that they are. But like there has to also be like that compassion to know they've got a history, they've got a habit. Habits are tough to overcome.
Correct.
Patterns, behaviors that can be difficult to get past. So
Yep.
yeah.
There has to be grace for that.
Always, yeah.
Yeah.
Always grace and mercy. Love.
For sure.
Yes, sir.
Which, I mean, grace, love, and mercy will sometimes hold you to a higher standard.
It's true. I was
So
just
it's-
thinking that too.
yep.
Love is gonna be honest.
It's not going to just make excuses and that's it.
Right.
It's going to.
It's gonna be kind. It's gonna call out what's better and possible in
Right.
you. It'll
Right.
encourage you,
Right.
uplift you, but it's gonna be honest and realistic because it doesn't help anybody to lie. It doesn't help your kid to tell them that they can put their hand on the stovetop and not get hurt by it.
Right.
Because they're going to end up burnt.
Correct.
And then they're going to be thinking, why did this happen?
Right. Right. I mean, maybe we could really work to find a lie that didn't burn anybody ever at all. But it's like most times that's what it's going to do. And
I mean, yeah, the pattern of lying is always going to end badly.
That's a great way
you
to put
could
it.
maybe like get away with some little ones for a little
Sure,
while, but
sure.
like at the end of the day, like it's always going to end up bad.
right on.
The path of sin leads to destruction. It does. I'm just saying. So anyways, yeah, health, that's one. I mean, I agree with you. The stats I've read, I'm sure you've got studies or stats or
For sure.
observations you could make about that.
Yep.
What do you think about the others? I mean, you get to meet a lot of people. You get to talk to a lot of people. You got any assessment of how we're doing?
So, the number one reason, if I had to put my finger on one reason why people come to see me in my chiropractic office is because they are overstressed. And one very large reason people are overstressed is because they have one or multiple relationships straining on them.
Shoot.
Yeah. Relationships being, to sum it up, is myself, my personal relationship, relationship with others, and relationships with your creator.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's a big one.
Sure.
That's a big one.
So another stat's actually from that same book, and if anybody reading is interested, it is a spiritual text. It's like biblical nature material, but it's by Rick Renner. It's called The Last Days Survival Guide. It's like a 500-page book, and it's all about 2 Timothy 3, where he goes through, what Paul wrote to Timothy, inspired by the Holy Spirit, about what was going to happen in the last days. I'll give you another one that I was reading about the other day. He talks about, I think it was the word unloving that's listed in there, and he talks about how that's not just like people are going to be mean to each other. It's like the self-love and unloving towards others. What it's really about is a lack of relational depth toward other people. He says the first way we're going to see that is by a spike in divorce rate, which is
interesting.
present in America today, like the breakdown of the nuclear family, which has been going on since like the 70s. very present in America. I don't have the stat. Maybe, I don't know if Lindsay could like look it up on the computer and then like tell us, but it's higher than it has been in the past and seems increasingly poor. And once again, just like with the health thing, I mean, this isn't like calling fire, brimstone, and condemnation on anybody who's experienced something like this. There's a lot of reasons why people end up in the positions that they do. And, there's grace, mercy, forgiveness, healing, redemption from all that. Go to church because you're going to hear a wonderful message about that if you are getting preached the gospel. But I think, this is something that is a result of lack of depth in relationships. And relational depth is going to allow you to get through things when they're difficult. We were talking recently, you and I, about like your character. It shows up when things are not easy. Like who you really are comes out when like it's required of you to not put on a front and not put on what you think you should be, but like you're just responding out of what's really in there. Like, how I'm reacting, what I'm saying, what I'm doing. It's not like I'm carefully calculating out who I'm going to be toward you. It's like I'm in a position of, I'm just trying to get through the day. I'm like, I got to just do something. I don't have time to figure it out. So this is how I respond. Like, that's where we really find out who we are. Or when no one's watching,
right,
is another place.
Right.
Like, what do you do when no one's around? What do you say? How do you act toward other people when you don't think there's going to be any repercussions? How do you talk about people when you're not in the room with them? I mean, there's a lot of things we could, go to talk about real character. But I think, someone who's got relational depth, like they're going to be able to endure the times of difficulty in relationships.
Yes.
They're going to be able to endure strain. And so when you don't have that, which, the word in 2 Timothy talks about like unloving or, self-loving, it's like this self-absorption that I'm so concerned about myself that I don't really care about the people around me. I don't really care if my wife is satisfied in our relationship. I don't really care if my kids are getting what they need from me. I'm just trying to take care of myself. I don't really care if my friends, feel like I'm connected to them or I care about them or I have any involvement or attachment in their life at all. Like I'm just doing my own thing. I'm living my best life. And whether you're in it or not, if you can't take me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best.
Right.
It's that kind of mentality.
Yeah.
And so like it's expressing itself in marital relationships for sure. But like, I just tell you, like, I think even with friendships, like, I don't think it's easy to make deep connections with people today. Sure. And I think it takes a really intentional effort on both parties.
Why do you think that? Why is there a difficulty in reaching that depth?
Like relational depth?
Yes, between friend to friend, let alone
Yeah.
marriage or intimate relationship.
Sure.
Just friend relationship. Why is that harder nowadays?
Well, I think a lot of it's about standards. I think it's about what we believe to be morally right.
Yeah.
And I think probably more in America, at least, than from what I've read about our history has been at another time. Like people are just okay with not caring about other people. People are okay with not loving each other.
Sure.
And so I think that's really at the heart of it is like, it's acceptable to not love someone else. There might be like a faux presence of that in some like groups or factions or movements or parties or things like that. I mean, they might want to say, well, we need to love and we need to accept and we need to do this with everybody. I mean, that's like something that I feel like people that want to control people, they like make a big point of this is what we need to do, but then like look at the results. I mean, do we actually like tolerate anybody that thinks differently than us? Most people don't. And it's like, dude, I don't even go on like social media more than a couple times a week because it's like just everybody yelling at each other.
It's hard.
It is hard. Mm-hmm. And I think even the widespread acceptance of that probably lends to it as well. Like that's how, I mean, people are just being themselves online, which is a scary and horrible thing to think about.
Yeah.
Because like you go online and it's horrible there.
Yeah.
And that's just people showing off who they really are. So yeah, you could see them in the store and they might seem pleasant, but I mean, that's why employers go and look at Facebook and Twitter and Instagram accounts because they find out who the people really are there.
Right.
It's like that, the unfiltered in a bad way.
Right. You can't put on a front.
No.
It's much harder to put on a front. or it's easier to put on a front when you're in person. Like I can make
almost
you
it
think
is, yeah.
whatever I want. If
That's
I'm
like
good
kind of
enough
the
actor.
expectation, is like we're gonna be nice in person, but
Right.
we're gonna rip each other apart on the internet,
Right.
Because there's no repercussions. You can't punch me in the face on the internet,
Right.
so
Yeah.
I can be as nasty as I want.
Right.
It's a horrible thing. And yeah, I think relationship depth has suffered greatly because of that.
Well, and do you remember the big movement on like random acts of kindness?
Yeah, I do.
And you'd see those videos of people would make videos and it's like, yeah, I'm going to pay for everyone's coffee in line behind me. Right.
Yeah.
And then you hear people honking and waving and all that stuff. And, you know, there's a big movement about love. Mm-hmm. I mean, someone came into my office with a sweatshirt and I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. Like it just said love more. That's the brand they
Sure.
were wearing. They're just spreading the message of love. But
Yeah.
when you have to say something, that means at some point it became not obvious that that's what you should do, right?
Yeah.
So at some point it's just like, oh yeah, it's good to be kind. It's good to be loving. Like always good reminders.
Yeah, like why
but
do we
it's-
have to remind people
Correct.
of that?
Right. Isn't that just innately known? Like when you're to treat somebody you like, you should treat them well with kindness and with love, right? But then all of a sudden it's, you know, if I don't know you, if you're not part of my inner circle,
Yeah.
then, well, you don't deserve my respect.
Well, I think that comes back to like one of the big questions that a lot of people ask, and is humanity good? You know, like
Oh,
objectively
you're going
good or
there.
not? Because if it is, then yes. Then the answer is yes. Everybody should have that within them to just love. I mean, if
Goodness.
we're made good,
Yep.
then if we're made good, then why is there anything bad happening?
Which I have a 10-month-old kid, you know, and she doesn't share,
Selfish.
right? You know, and
And it's
there's
okay
this-
because she's a baby.
Correct, and everyone loves her, and she's super cute, and she's
totally
the best
is.
for sure. And she's awesome when she crawls towards you and she says, "Hey, pick me up."
She
It's
is the
awesome.
best.
Amazing feeling. But it's the terrible twos for a reason, right? Like,
Because that selfishness
Correct.
expresses in a bigger way.
so it's one way of looking at it. Now, I'm not a psychologist or a.
No.
I would like to say I'm a philosopher, but
Philosopher.
correct. Yes, exactly. It's if we humanity was naturally good,
Yeah.
then we would be naturally good.
Right.
But it seems to be there are trends where it's like you have to learn how to treat people well.
Yeah.
Or if you let somebody go unparented, you know, teachers and other parents,
Monster.
you have a monster because they do whatever they want and they nature versus nurture, whatever you say. There
Yeah.
are multiple reasons, but this kid has learned to do
It's the full manifestation of selfishness, self-love,
until you learn how to put that down.
lust.
Until you choose to subdue that and bind it within you so that you can operate in a place of
Yeah.
betterness, you know?
Yeah.
Which my favorite marriage book, I think everyone should read this book. It's called The Meaning to Marriage by
Okay.
Tim Keller.
All right. What I'm about to get married this year, so what's that again?
Tim Keller, Meaning of Marriage, the mom book, Meaning of Marriage. It has
Okay.
nothing to do about moms. That's just the nickname. That's what we called it, Mom, M-O-M, Meaning of Marriage. Tim Keller is great. Your fiance is great, by the way.
Thanks.
Call her
I
Little
like
T.
her. Little
Yeah.
T. Yeah.
That's good.
Call her
for
Tay
sure.
Pod sometimes.
Yeah. The main moral of that book was key to a healthy marriage is co-submission, which was revelatory to me, like majorly blew my doors off sort of a thing, because it's like what we're talking about. Innately, you would think it's wiser to fend for yourself and to worry about yourself. And once I'm okay, then I can put attention to other people.
Sure.
Put my own oxygen mask on first, then I can help someone else. It's logical, and that principle should be applied.
If you don't believe in anything beyond us, then like why wouldn't your top priority be to take care of you?
Excellent point there.
So just you can keep going.
Well, right.
you've got more about
We're going
that.
to the same place for sure, you know,
no
because
doubt.
the whole principle of co-submission was if I put you first and you're putting me first, together, two people working for each other's best interest is stronger than either one of us would be trying to work for our own interest first
Sure.
and then worrying about the other person, you know? Because I'm always working for me and you're working for me. And you're always working for you, and I'm always working for you. It's like you've got double energy going, and because it exponentially grows. It's kind of the theory in the book too. Is it doesn't take away from your own efforts to take care of yourself and to be a good person and to grow as a person, right? You grow together and actually more
Yeah.
when you're focusing on each other instead of just yourself first and only.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that's good. It makes me think, and give the disclaimer that I'm not married and I haven't put this into practice for a bunch of years. I'm excited to try it out.
Amen.
But yeah, for sure soon. But like in Ephesians, I mean, the word talks about, wives, submit yourselves to your husbands, and husbands, love your wives. And I was listening to a minister one time, and I think it was on another podcast. It was by Paul Lewis Cole, and it's called Brave Men. And I don't remember what the guest was, but he was like a marriage author, and he was talking about the languages that men and women speak. And what he was saying is like, really, men and women, at the end of the day, like they need the same thing. They receive it and express it in a different language. And so like that scripture in Ephesians that talks about, wives, submit to your husbands, or give your husband respect, is another way that's commonly translated and read. And husbands, love your wives. Really, it's about submission would be a word for it. Preference would be a word for it. Love, even though it is a word specifically mentioned, husbands love your wives, and we don't get that exact same word for wives love your husbands. Really, it's a result of, we want to do what the other person needs. It's giving what's needed by the other person. And the language thing, the way this guy was talking about it, I wish I remembered his name. He was saying, just think about, for the most part, what touches the heart of men's and what touches the heart of women. Think about what movies like your wife wants to watch versus what you want to watch. I don't know. I kind of know what you're into for movies. I like war movies, and like, dude, I could watch every romantic film on Netflix and like not even be phased, like wouldn't do a thing. But like, you sit me down and let me watch like 10 guys go through hell on earth together and like die for each other and have such like an honor and a respect, like that kind of love for one another. I mean, like, I might cry, like that might bring me to tears. Ooh. So that's like something that touches me, that moves me. That's like, okay, that's something in my heart that is like, that's love to me. And it's this honor, it's this respect for each other. But like women, I mean, and I'm not trying to put people into like broad categories, but usually, I mean, they're called like chick flicks for a reason, right?
Yes, they are.
My dad, he tells a story about how he went to like this girl movie at Valentine's one time, and he said he was the only guy in the theater.
Oh man.
He walked in and he looked around and he's like, yep, this is pretty much what I would expect.
Maybe that was the only man.
The only real man.
The only real man secure enough to.
He was a man loving his wife. Well, he didn't go because he wanted to. I can tell you that.
Sure. Did he enjoy his time? Do you know? Did he say?
No, I don't know. I don't think he cried. I can tell you that much. Oh. So the idea though is like, men and women like kind of like receive love in a different way sometimes, maybe not all the time, sure. But really, I think it's just about, it comes down to loving each other. And I think women, they sometimes, and I don't know everything about women, but I think they want to receive love in a different way than maybe guys do. Oh, and sure. So he was talking about like, we need to speak the other person's language when we're trying to love them. We need to like get outside of what we know and what we're comfortable with. There's that book, like the 5 Love Languages, right? And that's kind of the same idea, like not so much categorized like men and women. It's like acts of service, words of affirmation, physical touch, quality time, and I forget the 5th one right now. If I thought, I could probably figure it out. But anyways, there's all these different ways he says, and it's like, don't just give love the way you receive love. Make sure you're like loving the same way that, So I think in a similar way, it's just the understanding that like, what my wife, or for me, like what my fiance needs. I mean, she doesn't need me to like, show her how much I honor her and think she's, just got it all together. And she wants to know that she's cared for and valued and treasured and all of that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So sure. It's just a different language. And I think even that, getting outside of speaking my own love language, that is part of love. Because if I refuse to talk in someone else's language, then I'm just doing what's best for me.
And the word that sticks out to me is when you said preference earlier, is showing them preference. And I mean, it's almost not possible to love someone the way you prefer.
Sure.
I mean, that's not like true
Sometimes
love,
it works out that way,
Sure.
but not always.
If you're like matched that way.
Yeah. I'd probably say it like this. Love is doing what's best for someone else, and lust is doing what's best for you.
Yeah.
So
Crazy. Lust is a hot word. It's like an ugly word.
Yeah.
It's like no one says, oh man, I had so much lust today. It was great. Like that's not.
they don't say that.
So when you combine lust with defining it as doing what's best for you only.
Yeah.
I mean,
selfish.
Yeah.
It's a selfish version of love.
For sure.
And love is the selfless version of love.
which a lot of society runs on you doing what's best for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would make the case that that's because society and people in general don't come out of the womb good.
So it's our relationship topic.
Yeah.
The moral of the story is when you put yourself second, or when you focus on others that you care about most first, generally that relationship has a chance to flourish. Mm-hmm. You're providing opportunity for it to grow. Yeah.
And I mean, that's totally something that comes from the word and from a, Christian Judeo worldview, because that's what Jesus taught, that you'll know my disciples by their love. Mm-hmm. And he talked about how the greatest in his kingdom would be the one who serves. And so service is totally a form of love, because it's choosing to do what's better for someone else willingly rather than what's good for me. So that's what he did.
We're going to go deep on that for sure.
Right now?
We're going to go, on
another time.
On future.
Yeah,
on
that sounds
future.
good.
I mean, we're moving through our 4 topics here. We've talked about
that's
health
great,
and,
man. Let's just keep plugging away.
Health, and when that derails, how it can affect all of the other areas, relationships. Man, what a big topic. And I would really I think you're a relational expert to a degree. I mean, just as you're leading a church and all you do is relate to people all day long.
A lot of relationship.
Yeah.
Yep.
And find ways to love on them and dig into what they need and how you can help them the most, And so and that's kind of the key of our podcast, is bringing on people who are quote unquote experts in one of these areas, figuring out what they know that's unknown to the masses.
Yeah.
But then also dig into, the other areas that maybe that expert in one area is learning in.
Sure.
And so if I'm a health expert, which I'd like to call myself that I am, I'm in deep in that category.
For
right?
sure.
So I need to learn a little more about how to use my resources, for example, which really means time, energy, money, and learning financial habits, right? Because you obviously, money doesn't grow on trees, right?
Right.
So on a resource topic, when you start thinking about time, money, and energy, what comes to mind about how you should spend that and how you shouldn't let it derail you?
How you should spend and how you shouldn't let it derail you. Well, one of the first things that comes to my mind talking about what you should do and what you shouldn't allow to take you off course is really just the way we view finances specifically, but I think even time. I think those are things we have to look at like a resource and like a tool, and not I just can't stop getting spiritual and biblical, but
it's ingrained in you.
We can't make it our God. We can't make it the thing that we're serving or living for. I think that's where people get way off is I'm living for that. And, if I don't have enough of it, then my life can't be worth living. If I'm not satisfied with the amount I've got now, I mean, you're always going to be pursuing, you're never going to get fulfillment if you're looking at a resource your purpose. If a resource is your purpose, you're never going to be fulfilled, because you're always going to be just trying to accumulate more and more and more of that resource. Right. And so that has no end.
Right.
The other thing I'd say about that is resources are tools. The way I look at it, I've got a pile of wood at my house, and it's for building stuff when I need wood to build stuff. It's there. I know it's there, but I don't even think about it every day. I don't obsess over my wood pile. And honestly, the way I look at it is if I run out, I can always go get some more. Time is something that, like you said earlier, is a little bit different in that we've only got so much while we're here, right? Our time, at least from my perspective in this world, is limited. I believe there is eternal life after that, and so that would be kind of a different conversation. But for here and now, from the time I take my first breath to the time they put me in a box, I only have so much.
Right.
And so even there, I don't think we can obsess about that either, because the time we spend obsessing about it is just time wasted, time lost. So it's like, let's just recognize that I've got it and I'll use it the way I need to. I would probably, I don't know, I like your 4-thing format, but I almost think time could like be kind of in its own subcategory away from the other stuff, because it is kind of classified differently. The other things like energy, money, my lumber pile at the house, the tools that I've got in my shed, even like information, knowledge, things like that. I mean, it's always stuff like, if I don't have what I need, I can go get more of it.
Sure.
Like if I get tired, I mean, I can drink a Red Bull or a pot of coffee, or I could take a nap.
Right.
There's a lot of ways to get more energy, right?
There's
a lot of ways to get more money. I mean, I can get a part-time job. I can get a different job. I can sell some stuff. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do to accumulate more resources if you need the resources. Sure. But I think part of the accurate approach to resources is recognizing like they're supposed to be used for a greater purpose and a greater goal. If my whole life is just accumulating resources, then I'm in survival mode, and I'm like basically living like I don't know, what am I trying to say here? Like a barbaric style of life.
Sure.
Because that's all their focus was, is like, let's just get what we need to survive.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm grateful that we're in a time where we've pretty much got everything we need to survive around us all the time.
Indeed.
And we've all got pretty easy access to that at every point.
Yep.
So it's like, we can almost, I think it'd be wise if people got a little bit outside of this obsession about resources and started focusing on what you just drew an arrow to, which is calling, pursuit, purpose, career, the pursuit, the thing, your goal, what you're going after with life. A couple other things I would say about resources. I think one of the best ways to keep that category in a right spot in your life is to give it away. That's a good way to make sure it's not ruling over you. Is like, hey, I can give some of this up, and it's not gonna kill me. It's not gonna hurt bad in a way where I'm like gonna die because I gave. I could go into biblical principles about sowing and reaping and how giving will lead to increase and all those kinds of good things. But you can look up ALM, Abundant Life Ministries, on Facebook if you want to hear that. Just head to the 45-minute mark.
Plug.
Good little plug there. Hope that's okay.
Well, see, here I think you're doing a really good job of describing how, like, when one of these things takes priority totally over another, is when it starts to skew another area, right? And so your resources and your money, when money or your career becomes a focus, I mean, that, and you're hungry for it and you spend all your time on it, then it's like the other start to derail. Versus like health or relationships, it's more about when you lose it. Yeah. That becomes the issue. So it's kind of a different complex there too. Which,
it works a different way than, well, they all kind of work in a different way a little bit.
They do, but which is, I mean, why I think the concept is so cool. It's
the word I would give for resources is like manage it.
It requires management.
It requires management.
For sure.
Time requires management.
We have a buddy who just bought a plot of land, right? And this blew my mind. I can't wait for him to come on the podcast. He knows who he is too. And
I think I know who it is.
With a kid on the way. So
are we eating some meat with this guy?
I mean, I hope
sometime
so.
later,
I need to check
maybe.
a message from him here soon.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Good guy.
So yes, but he bought this plot of land and he's figured out ways to make money off the land that I didn't even never even fathomed. It's like, oh wow, what are you going to do with it? I mean, you have all this space now to do whatever you want, but it's like, no, we can grow alfalfa and we can sell that for like a good year's income. Just by doing that, let alone, I mean, now we have opportunity to, and he had X, Y, and Z. And it's just, he managed a resource and he made it work for him. Right. Which I think is one of the getting your time to work for you when you have a day beautifully scheduled out and you know, like the things that you want to prioritize, have a time slot in your day versus just winging it and trying to fit it in every day. Like our workouts are scheduled, and so we have strong bodies. Our bodies are capable of things that later we will have the ability to do with those bodies that we wouldn't be able to do if we didn't allot the time for our health and our strength, right? And so
it's investment.
I get really hyped up talking about this for sure, just on how you schedule, invest your time into the things you want to prioritize, and then you work the system after that. Once your schedule is set, all you got to do is plug and play on some of those things, right? And
Yeah.
we have another mutual buddy who does a lot of finance work. He also knows who he is, and he'll be on one day, and he's able to get into a software and create settings so that trades will make themselves
Yeah.
on their own when certain criteria is met. And so he can literally go to, I mean, there's a pro and a con to this. You got to be good. I wouldn't recommend this. I wouldn't just say open up an E-Trade and go on this, but it's one way of, making a side pot of money is trading. My dad, the financial planner, I mean, he has other ideas too. There's some good ideas to make money out there
Right.
to help
A lot of
your
ways
money.
to invest.
Correct. To manage your money so that your money makes more for you and it exponentially grows. So money is good like that, but he can set settings on this program, go to sleep one day and watch it multiply in the morning.
Yeah.
Which is a really amazing thing. And so when we talk about resources, it's about setting it so that it compounds and you get what you want out of it, and not letting them consume you. Like the way the love of money itself is not evil. The love of money
right.
is evil, right?
True.
And prioritizing that above every other thing, that's when it can derail you.
Yeah. It's true. Just while you were talking about that, I mean, this would be kind of a side thing, and I don't know how much time to spend here, but I was just thinking about the question, how do you choose where to invest? How do you choose where to invest?
Financially
or time, or, I mean, what's the criteria for you in whatever area you want to talk about that you recognize a good investment or you are aware of a bad one?
This is, I think, an excellent segue into kind of the wheel that we talk about, which, I mean, on the camera, we'll release a document here, but it incorporates the 4 areas, which is what you do. What you do is you have relationships, you build your health, you manage resources, you have your pursuits. How you do it, how you execute it is a different thing.
Yeah.
But then at the core of how you do something is your identity, and that's really why you do something, right? So your question is about
how do you choose your investment?
I mean, I think knowing who you are segues into how you choose your investment.
Yeah.
And here we go again. We'll go for another hour on the topic of
We
identity.
definitely could.
And I think this is at the heart of the podcast, is because it's very hard to be functional in all these areas when you have a lack of identity of who you are. When you don't know what your priorities are, when you don't know what your values are, then it's kind of like you wander for a while until you get a strong jet stream to get into, And so over time, like I'll use Lindsay as an example, I think, is because I think you found a passion for graphic design over lots of other areas, right? Like you played volleyball, you're a big volleyball fan, right? But you don't necessarily play volleyball anymore. So you've picked design over volleyball, right? Because that's what makes you tick. That's what gets you excited, right? And so, I mean, I don't really necessarily know of a process. She nodded her head at all of those, by the way, for the sake of the podcast. She said yes. She was in agreement with those categories. And I can't wait to dig more into your story as well, how you got to where you are. But I don't know of any process that's out there right now that helps you like discover who you are necessarily. I mean, you can do identity tests, but it's just like through life experience, you kind of learn things that make you tick, things that get you excited, things that get you passionate. I mean, I was passionate about health. You're passionate about the Word of God, right? And so then you found a career that helps you do your passion. So then now, like, you can go to work and invest your time and your energy into your passion that makes you tick the most, you know? And so I think finding that, discovering that is, something that everyone should do, which, I mean, no one has to have that figured out by a certain age.
Right.
And how many times, what's the statistic is college students change their major, like it's either 4 or 7 times. It's a lot,
It's a lot.
It's a lot. And so I think it's obvious by the time you're college age, 18 to 21, you don't have it figured out yet. But college is kind of the time to figure it out, or that age.
Sure.
Very rarely do people have it figured out before, but I wish there was something universal that would help people discover, this is who I am, this is what I want to make decisions based off of, and then you can kind of plan your life off of that.
Yeah. We've talked about that a little bit before, and I think what it comes down to is really just belief. I mean, you gotta have something you believe in order to know who you are, because until you know, you were just preaching this the other night, you shared at one of our men's meetings at church, and the guy is fantastic. So I hope you all get a chance to hear him preach sometime. He's awesome. But you were sharing about like questions that people have, and you went to Colossians 1 verses like 15, or was it like 13 through 18?
Yep.
And you answered, looked to the Word to answer some of those questions. I love that you did that, but I did not write them down the other day. But it was like, who were we made by? What were we made for? Like, I don't know if belonging was one of them. Like, where do we belong?
Yeah. Yeah, you're spot on.
I don't remember what the fourth one was. If you
we could, origin, purpose, morality, and
the
destiny.
Right?
Correct.
Yeah, where you go afterward.
Correct.
Right.
How'd you get here? Where are you going? What are you supposed to do while you're here? And how are you supposed to do it? How do you differentiate good versus bad?
I like the way you phrase that. You took that from Ravi Zacharias, right?
I did.
Yeah,
Yes.
Great, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I think you have to be able to answer those before you can know who you are.
Agreed.
Because without that, I mean, you're latching onto someone else's ideas.
Agreed.
And that can be good or bad.
Yeah.
But until you get an identity, and that's really what identity, I think what identity is belief. And I mean, I don't have a ton to like extrapolate about that, but I think identity is belief, because identity is about, this is who I am. This is what I am. This is what I stand for. This is why I'm here. This is what the end of this all is going to look like. Mm-hmm. And I think all of that is wrapped up in those questions we ask and what you believe about them. Because if you believe that we're just all here by chance from like cells and monkeys and stuff like that, then, well, you're probably going to have a different outlook on what is right and wrong, on, your time here. You're going to view it differently if you don't view it with like an eternal destiny in mind.
It's a lot easier to be selfish when you don't have eternity in mind.
Unloving.
Or when you believe like we came from monkeys or something of the sort, or rather just dust. There was no purpose to my life, no like purpose given to me just as I entered into this life.
I'm just here to figure it out for myself.
Yeah. I think passion goes way down.
Yeah.
I think love goes way down. I think kindness goes way down.
Depression goes way up.
People would probably argue with us on that, and I would welcome that argument.
Yeah, I would too.
Not to argue, but to learn.
To discuss.
Because we've leaked enough information now, like we both are Christians.
I mean, I'm a pastor, so
you're
like,
a pastor. You're
you
a
gotta
pastor
know.
at a Christian church.
Yeah.
You believe in the Bible and what Jesus Christ did. And I mean, we'll probably have podcasts on this very topic, but like no one disputes that Jesus Christ lived and walked on this earth. He was a man who lived,
Yes.
And so
he died on a cross.
He died on a cross. And part of what forms our identity is looking at Jesus and assessing what he said, because this was a man who said he was God,
right?
Which either makes him a liar, a lunatic, or he's actually Lord, right? Which is a concept from a book.
Yeah, there's only so many options.
There's only so many options too. And so we've accepted him as Lord, and therefore that forms the big four questions that creates our worldview.
Yeah.
Origin, purpose, morality, and destiny we find in him.
Right.
So if you're not doing that from the Bible or from Jesus, who am I? I'm not the judge. I'm not to say the one that you are. You should or should not do that. But you have to answer these four questions, or else you're just kind of wandering.
Right. It's true. Or you're following someone else.
Following someone else's coattails. Yes, for sure.
And then you're just trying to be a little them.
Correct. Yep.
Which never works out.
Yeah, for sure.
Because the world doesn't need another one of them.
Well, and then
you're going to be the worst version, the B team version
of them.
No shots at anyone on a B team, but like the lesser version of who they are. So just be yourself.
And you have your own passions and your own pursuits that are in there. It's just they have to be drawn out at times. And boy, I hope we can do that for people and with people on this podcast.
Definitely.
So,
And I think that ties into like the question that led us there of like, how do you choose your investment? It's like, well, if I know why I'm here and what I'm about and where I belong, like that gives me a framework of how to decide if this fits or if it doesn't fit.
Yeah.
That'd be the way I'd look at it. Like, this thing that I'm considered doing with my time, does that fit or does that not fit?
Sure.
I have to do that all the time because like I have ideas. I have things like both for ministry and calling, but like also just personally. I mean, there's stuff that like, you know, I'll see someone else doing this, or I'll watch a YouTube video and I'll be like, oh man, that looks cool. I could do that. I could be the best at that. I mean, I could make this thing work, and this is how I could do it. But it's like at the end of the day, I have to look at the investment and I have to determine, does that fit into my identity, who I believe God's made me to be, why he's put me here, and what, you know, I'm about. Does that fit it or doesn't it? Yep. Like I was just telling you the other day about like, you know, I've been looking into like the whole microgreen and organic growing stuff at my house. But like I've also told you, like there's more stuff I would like to do than I have time to do, like just in the ministry sphere too. So it's like, can I really take on this whole other thing? No, I can't. And I know that I can't. I don't have the time available to invest in. And here's the difficult thing. Sometimes we have one resource to invest, but we lack the other one. And we have to be real enough with ourselves to say that.
Sure.
Because like I've got the financial resources to start it up and make it happen. I don't have the time to put into it. Don't have the energy to put into it like on a consistent basis to get it done.
Yeah.
And here's another little fun thing. I think sometimes we can make up for a lack of one resource with another resource. Like I could, in theory, make up for the lack of time or energy that I have for it with more money by hiring someone else to do it for me.
Yeah.
But that kind of, then you got to start weighing out, how does that affect the investment? Because if I am trading off more money to make this thing happen, then what I'm doing is reducing the net money that this investment is going to gain me. And so then it's like, is it really worth all the effort and work?
Right.
And so then, you know, I mean, we look for other ways that maybe it can happen, and, you know, maybe there are some, but, yeah, I think when we know who we are, we can take any question of investment and put it into the framework of our identity. And it becomes very clear very quickly of if it fits our life or if it does not.
Yes. And that was exact same criteria in an area where you invest your time. I think, I mean, you know what provided fruit and what didn't. When you know, the hour that you spent through Facebook and your brain feels like it's melting versus
toes.
Right. When you have a fantastic relational phone call with someone, or, I mean, you work on
when I watched through the whole Office another time.
Right. At some point.
The donut I ate.
At some point, maturity and growth takes you away from this point where you don't crave some of those things that you know are not investing back into you.
It's a good thing.
You crave things that are invest back into your life, like a personal relationship or a workout or the good food and all that. And if you don't get to that point, I mean, there are repercussions to that. And I think we both see it both in a spiritual sense, in a relational sense, and in a health sense. It's like,
and in a resource. I mean, every area. I will boil it down to this, and we've talked about it before: consumption versus productivity. That's where it goes, because everything I'm doing, everything is being productive, or it's eating, it's taking, it's getting rid of something that I have in a wasteful way. Because I think even like, I mean, we talk about consumption. Like I eat food, but there's some food that like produces something good, and then there's the food that produces something bad. And I mean, you've coached me in some of that,
right on,
which I'm grateful for.
Sure, you got it, man.
Most of the time. And I think in every area, I mean, we could take it there. It's like, well, this is either doing something good and being productive and fruitful, or it is like stealing my energy or my time or my money. Usually those are the three, or it's stealing from my relationship.
Yeah.
There's one for like Facebook, dude.
Yeah.
And I'm not like just out to rag on Facebook.
Yeah.
I mean, I did delete it off my phone last month. It's been great. Highly recommend that.
Because that was not a good, useful investment of your time.
No. And
so
it was just just having it there was like distracting.
Consuming your time, your energy, which, I mean, ultimately means your money and your resources.
And relationships, man.
Oh,
like,
right.
I think that lends to the lack of love that we have today and the like depth of relationships that we have today. Cause like we can be so surfacey and it's like, oh, you know, this friend isn't making me feel good right now, so I'll just go talk to somebody on Facebook. My spouse isn't making me feel good today, so I'll just go find
It's an escape.
I'll go find
it's
an
avoidance.
Well, dude, there's I can't quote the stat for you. You could look it up if you want, but there's a high surprisingly high percentage of like divorces that start on Facebook, because like someone connects with a past relationship, and then it's like they fill a void in their present relationship with this other one. And then it's like just this, I mean, it's dysfunctional.
Sure. Yeah.
But like, there you go. That's a consumption thing, because what you're doing is like, well, I suppose in some language you could say I'm producing like a new relationship, but really what you're doing is like destroying the one that you already have. And so I even think like on a less extreme level, I mean, I think about time I spend with people, and when my like go-to, when I feel like uncomfortable, or like, you know, we're at like a dead spot in the conversation or the hangout, I just whip out my phone and pull up Facebook and start surfing. Like, I've totally just detached myself from that time that I could be investing and producing in those relationships, and I've withdrawn myself to something that, I mean, how much productive like relational building has happened on Facebook? I can tell you, for me, almost none. I mean, I can think of maybe a couple conversations which happened in like Messenger. So it's not even like it was out on the walls, like commenting on posts. Yeah. Like, yeah, sure. You think that's like the thing that you're going to build a friendship on? Maybe some people do it. I can't. I'm not good like that, I guess. But I think people just, they waste time. They waste opportunities to build relationships, to love each other. And not just in like a fruity, fluffy love kind of way, but like, I'm going to act in a way that prefers you. I'm going to act in a way that lets you know that you're valued and I care about you, and, you know, I'm with you. From like man to man, like I'm with you, man. I'm standing with you. Like, you got to fight, I'll be standing by your side, you know. Like, I think we just need more of that. We need to produce and know what production looks like and what consumption looks like, and make a decision.
I think therein we've come full circle and summarized the point of this podcast is love it. Consumerism versus production, and making these 4 areas of universal commonalities that all people face, making them
productive
for you, and exponentially productive to where they, you know, it stacks just like a lot of principles of finance. That's the way it works. Money exponentially grows as it compounds, right?
Yeah, it does.
So if you can compound your health and compound your resources and compound the effect that your pursuit and your passion of life has, that's where it's at. And so
get this lawn mowed.
Get that lawn mowed, correct. Keep things prioritized with exactly what it needs, not letting anything crash into the other and derail everything.
Give it what it needs when it needs it.
So we're going to week in, week out,
deliver
value in that form and fashion. I'm very excited.
Stay tuned, everybody.
Stay tuned.
Y'all come back now.
For sure. And we're going to try to be as wildly entertaining as possible. And so we're going to throw down an outro beat right here, which I hope you just learn to jam with it. That's right. This has been Unfiltered with Dr. Philip Heisterkamp and the one and only Pastor Isaac Wengler. We're excited to bring you some value. We're going to keep digging into relationships, health, resources, and your life pursuits. Keep tuning in. Let us know what you think. Thanks for listening. Have a good one.